Hi everyone! Welcome to video 2 in this 5-part series of trauma-informed group work using the Therapeutic Spiral Model, TSM, led by Dr. Kate Hudgins and Dr. Stephen Durost. Whether you are studying TSM or exploring new trauma work tools, this video provides key insights and practical teaching points, focusing on warm-up, safety structures, sound and movement, and spectrograms. Let's dive in. It was taped during the annual gathering of Therapeutic Spiral International.
So step back outside the circle and go stand behind your chair, because this is the observing place. So we're trying to always keep left brain and right brain balanced. Inside is the experiencing, outside is the observing. And then we have our cards to make full cognitive container all the way around. So now you've learned the observing ego, you've learned the 3 strings, and you've learned some spontaneity and connection with each other. All right, so we're moving right along. Yes. Getting our group connected. All right, Stephen, you want to do the next one?
So the next safety structure is spectrograms, and those are an imaginary line on the ground that represent 2 different parts of a criteria. I'm going to say that, and you're going, huh? And in 3 seconds from now, you'll understand what I'm saying. You can get it to scarves. So at one end, I know absolutely nothing about psychodrama. TSM, psychodrama, none of this stuff.
This is my first experience.
Is it really now? Over here, we have, I know so much about psychodrama that I am practically Zerka Moreno herself. Actually, I am Zerka Moreno come down, and I am watching all of us here.
And notice that we reference Zerka. Zerka is the person who encouraged TSM. If JL had been alive, I never would have come in. Zerka was the one who always encouraged. Yes, I told JL it should have been more contained. I kept telling him it should be more contained. And so that's why we ask you to be here, Zerka, because you are our mentor.
Great job, young lady.
Darling is what you would call
Darling.
In fact, Zerka was the one who wrote to Kate, showed Kate a bunch of quotes and said, actually TSM is what JL was aiming for.
Yes.
And JL is JL Moreno.
Not Joshua Lee.
Spectrogram that really looks at how much experience someone has with psychodrama. So at one end, the idea was to have someone who knows nothing about psychodrama, and that's where they would place themselves, along the spectrogram to someone who knows everything about psychodrama. And for that role, we kind of, playfully employed the spirit of Zerka Moreno as the one who knows everything about psychodrama. And we had 2 people hold those positions. Karen was at one end saying that she knew nothing, and Joshua is at the other end as Zerka Moreno, holding that space for us. If you want to get more information about the Therapeutic Spiral Psychodrama Model, and you could pick up this book on Amazon that Kate and I wrote, is the most current book on the process. It goes into great detail about everything that you saw, all the steps clearly put out, as well as the theory behind what we did. Experiential therapy from trauma to post-traumatic growth, the Therapeutic Spiral Model Psychodrama.
So what I'd like you to do is now place yourself along this imaginary line of where you are in relationship to psychodrama and TSM.
Come on.
Newbie. Try to form a line if you can.
So we've got some people here who are moving even outside of their brain.
Come in, enjoy the
Oh,
water.
do you hear that? Do you hear Zerka calling you?
Come, darlings. Come in.
It's working, Zerka. It's working. Yes. They've taken us half a step in. Now they're in their brains again. Oh, we've been. We're learning in our bodies already what psychodrama is, aren't we? So welcome. What would you like to ask Zerka down there? Yes. There she is.
Zerka,
Yes, Stella.
what's my sound?
Role reverse.
Circa, what's my sound?
Go inside yourself.
And then role reverse.
Darling, just go inside.
She's coming to you, Zerka.
I want to find my voice.
Go within.
Go within. And everyone take your moment to go within with instructions from Zerka. To find your voice and find your sound. And maybe make that sound there.
Well, actually, the participant initiated the wording when I asked, what do you want to know of Zerka, or what do you want to learn from Zerka? She was the one who said, Zerka, where's my sound? And so I went with that. I didn't have an idea about what that should mean or how I should interpret it, but it was what was presented. And like we learned, there's no waste in the TSM space. So it was meaningful to her. And so we entered into that moment with her. She went role reverse with Zerka, and then you notice that Zerka says that whatever's resonant, what's the first thing that's resonating with you? That's your sound. I role reversed them back, and you could see that was really meaningful for her because she moved from a person who had no experience with psychodrama spot, moved close and closer and closer to Zerka. And at that moment, she was then finding her voice, again, her language. And because I'm always thinking about how does this go out to the whole group? How do we take this piece that's happening here and bring it to everyone? I said, everyone go into your body and find that sound and voice. And that way we could have a group experience with what was coming up in the spectrogram.
Add some of the deeper TSM concepts to what was shared about how to do a spectrogram and why that spectrogram and what was happening. It's also because as you do the spectrograms, you get information about each other, and in that way you form a group brain. And that's one of our goals in TSM, is to have a group brain, not just an individual protagonist brain, but a group brain. And so one of the reasons Stephen asked other people to join in was to make it a group experience, not just one person's experience of going from not knowing anything to finding her sound and voice and being close to Zerka, but that everybody got a chance. And so we're constantly in these early spectrograms building up group brain from the immersive telly that we're creating with each structure.
We move. We always change the polarities to get off of this line and onto another. Kate will present the next criteria.
Okay, if the auxiliaries will now go this way. Joshua, you could de-roll and give the auxiliary roll to... So our next spectrogram that we did was on enthusiasm. The first one in our spectrogram of safety structures, we basically start with information. That's why it's how much do you know about psychodrama? Even though it progressed into a beautiful little vignette. But the first one is really something that's non-threatening to people. And then the second one is see where people are with affect. We certainly expected, the people that had come to Croatia were enthusiastic about being there, or they wouldn't have come. And we still needed to see if there might be somebody that was less enthusiastic or didn't feel included or something like that. So you showed Mario, hey, yeah, of course we're going to be here. We planned this for a year. And then Ina's going, oh no, taking the other end of the spectrogram. And then people just placed themselves along that, so that we were looking at a deeper emotion, not a trauma emotion, just a good emotion, trying again to get the stabilization up with that. So that was the instruction for that spectrogram, was place yourself between Mario, who's holding the role of intense enthusiasm, and Ina, who's in the role of oh gee, I wish I hadn't come. And go ahead and place yourself on there. And that's what we did. Place yourself on the line. How enthusiastic. Be truthful. Got sound and movement. Sound and movement.
Okay, so hold for a moment. And notice that we say hold rather than freeze, because freeze is a trauma response, whereas hold is just a moment. But I'd like the other way that we might offer too is sometimes we do this, which is I love you. But y'all been so great already, so we may
Not
do it.
yet.
We'll always need. We're going to start with sound down here. And as we move up, I want you to make your sound as I'm coming by you. Okay? And then we're going to come back down. And we'll go back up. Hi. Yes, so. So we're going to give you another line. As I said, we've changed the axis each time, so we have to move. So I'm going to over here. Right now, because of all the trial, well, whatever, I'm not feeling really connected to my body at the moment. You okay?
You didn't get much sleep last night. It was tossing and turning. Coffee was offline today. Oh my.
And over here, I am so in touch with my body.
Oh, good. You even paddleboarded yesterday.
Yesterday was
Today is today. All right. Excellent. So go ahead and put yourselves along the line where you find yourself in touch with your body today.
And maybe share with the person close to you.
I'm going to have you do 3 spontaneous groups. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this group right here, you're just going to go ahead and do a spontaneous
Coffee.
Don't worry. Be happy.
So if this was a client group, we would start asking some trauma criteria at this point, so that we start with the positives, which we call prescriptive, right? And then we work down into the trauma criteria, which is victim, perpetrator, and abandoning authority in our model. But we're not going to do that.
And then we move back up.
And then we come back up. Okay? But this is like the client groups where you ask, how dissociative are you? Have you ever tried to commit suicide? The really injure yourself. And injure yourself, right? This is where you pre-plan, knowing your therapy group. What questions do you need to ask so that people can start speaking before they go into action?
The brilliance of TSM is that in each of these safety structures, there's a movement towards and back from the trauma. Towards and back. And each time a little deeper, and a little deeper, until the person can be very present and look at the trauma. Both. Rather than dissociated in the trauma, which doesn't help, but present and look at the trauma. And come back. And that's when you can actually work in the trauma and go through.
Time-wise,
What we just did takes 6 months in a trauma group. Could. I mean, I'm not saying that it does, but it could. I worked with a women's trauma survivors group, and just the idea of naming their strengths was so foreign to them that it took, like 6 months for them to get comfortable in that. We had, we worked with other stuff, and we worked in prescriptive roles and stuff. To the point then that about 6 months in, they didn't want to do anything but come in and do observers and circle of safety. And they were like grabbing the scarves when they came in and putting them, they would have spent 2 hours doing that. Because it was so, like once they got it, it was, but that's what, the repetition is what internalizes it. But yes, you can do it quicker. It's just the group balance. So.
If you want to be put on our mailing list for our newsletter and our announcements of our trainings and events, email me and just get in connected with what we're doing around the world. And also the website, it has amazing references, gathering of research, not just from what we've done, but what other people have done with internal parts work that's related to TSM. So we have lots of resources for you. And just reach out. And I hope to meet some of you in person. Thanks.